A quiet, powerful testament to the lives lost in what's described as an evil act of terror.
We thought it was fireworks at the start, and then next second we see people lying on the floor, so a kid gets shot. It was probably the worst feeling I've ever seen.
Collective grief lined the edges of a sprawling crime scene as mourners confront the aftermath of Australia's deadliest mass shooting in nearly 30 years.
Screaming the whole way down, run, here's a gun. Like, I've lost my voice, I was just screaming the whole way down. And then once we got into back streets, we just kept screaming at everyone, like, get inside, get inside.
It's here gunshots ripped through the world-famous Bondi Beach, normally a calm haven for sunbathers and swimmers, replaced by cries of panic. This labelled terrorism, targeting the Jewish community during Hanukkah celebrations.
At the moment it's more disbelief than anything, and on the one hand I think everyone knew this was going to happen sooner or later with the trajectory that we were on as a society, but for it to actually happen here at our Hanukkah event in Bondi Beach.
Australians urged not to be divided by fear.
Today all Australians wrap our arms around them and say we stand with you. We will do whatever is necessary to stamp out anti-Semitism. It is a scourge and we will eradicate it together.
Who the suspects were and how the attack was planned now under intense scrutiny.
We are satisfied that there were 2 offenders involved in yesterday's incident. One is deceased, the second is in critical but stable condition in hospital at the moment. The offenders are a 50-year-old and 24-year-old male who are father and son.
Australia already has some of the world's strictest gun laws, but this attack has reignited debate over firearm access, with the Prime Minister signalling that the rules will now be reviewed. Bondi Beach is usually a place known internationally as safe and iconic, but it's now part of a global conversation on how governments deal with anti-Semitism, stand against hate and protect communities from violence. Urgent pleas for unity by the government in a country divided. As the vigil grows, so too does the anger and calls for change. Danielle, Robertson, Al Jazeera, Sydney.
Some context. The Port Arthur massacre back in 1996 in Australia triggered gun reforms in the country that were once held up as a global benchmark. The government introduced a nationwide gun buyback program, a national firearms registry, and strict limits on semi-automatic weapons. In the 12 days that followed the 1996 mass shooting, Australia's deadliest, the government banned semi-automatic weapons and tightened licensing laws requiring gun owners to show a genuine reason to own a firearm. Mass shootings largely disappeared, and Australia went on to record one of the world's lowest gun homicide rates. But legal gun ownership has actually risen steadily now for more than 2 decades. There are around 4 million firearms in the country as we speak, and that exceeds pre-1996 levels. Even so, gun crime remains low by global standards. In 2024, 33 people were killed in gun homicides in Australia. By contrast, in the United States, an average of 49 people were killed by guns every day through the year 2023. Samara McPhedran is a principal research fellow with the Violence Research and Prevention Program at Griffith University. You're joining us, Samara, from Brisbane. Thank you for your time. Is it a foregone conclusion that gun laws are going to be tightened once again in Australia?
It's hard to say. Politicians are certainly suggesting that that will be the case, but it's also important that we don't focus on gun laws to the exclusion of far broader social issues and other social challenges that we face around violence. So it's hard at this stage to know quite what's going to happen. And there's always a concern, as we've seen over the past 30 or so years since Port Arthur, when one of these events takes place, when we see an incident of horrendous gun violence, the reaction by politicians is often very swift. They announce new laws, bans, buybacks, and so on. And they do that time and time and time again. And yet here we are again. So I think we need to look very seriously at whether to do more of the same thing that we've already done many times, or whether to take a new approach.
Well, what else can these political leaders do? You said there's a need to focus on wider social issues. What did you mean?
We've seen in Australia over a long period of time, many years, is across the political spectrum, politicians using quite inflammatory and divisive rhetoric. And that has been very unhelpful in terms of public debate. It's really encouraged a lot of social division, and it's pitted Australians against each other along racial, religious, cultural, ethnic and other lines. And we're now seeing where that leads. So hopefully going forward, we can work towards a much more positive and collective approach to some of these social problems that we face.
Yeah, you say racial, ethnic, religious divisions. One word you haven't said is anti-Semitism, and that's really in the middle of this conversation, isn't it? Because it's been a part of the national conversation in Australia for at least the last 2 years. Anti-Semitic attacks and occurrences have been on the rise pretty consistently. Now, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has jumped right into the middle of this conversation. He has accused Australia of fueling anti-Semitism in the lead up to the attack. He urged Australia's Prime Minister, Mr. Albanese, to, quote, replace weakness with strength. He also praised the efforts of the man who wrestled a firearm away from one of the gunmen. Samara, I just want to listen to Netanyahu and hear your thoughts on the back of this.
We saw an action of a brave man, turns out a Muslim brave man, and I salute him, that stopped one of these terrorists from killing innocent Jews. But it requires the action of your government, which you're not taking. And you have to, because history will not forgive hesitation and weakness. It will honor action and strength. That's what Israel expects of each of your governments in the West and elsewhere, because the disease spreads and it will consume you as well.
Okay, Samara, how do you feel about this? Because you just told us political leaders have to take action, not just on gun laws, but on the social issues. Anti-Semitism is one of them. Benjamin Netanyahu is calling it out. How do you feel about what you just heard?
There's no question that we do need to address anti-Semitism. That is absolutely crystal clear. However, this is a problem that Australia and Australians need to look at and deal with and talk about in Australia. I'm not sure that any foreign leader is really going to make a terribly helpful contribution right now.
Yeah, well, I would say that from a purely political standpoint, it is quite unusual for a foreign leader to be so categorical about what happens, halfway across the world. If we started this interview by talking about the actions of Australia's Prime Minister post-1996 Port Arthur massacre, and at the time, they really quickly and drastically tightened gun laws. But that feels a lot easier to do than what you're talking about. You're talking about having a national conversation about fixing social ills. Like, how do you address that?
It's absolutely right that gun laws are an extremely easy thing for politicians to do and to be seen to be doing something. It takes real leadership and real courage to move past those easy, quick fix responses and to deal with the raft of very serious social issues that stand before us today.
Samara, listen, thank you very much for your time joining us on short notice on Al Jazeera. We really appreciate your insights. Thanks for speaking to the Al Jazeera NewsHour. Samara McPhedran.
Thank you.
Don't miss out on the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.